Chapter 1. The Number in the Name. March 14th, 1943. Ravensbrück concentration camp, northern Germany. Prisoner 23,741 stands in the morning roll call, her breath forming small clouds in the frozen air. She is 34 years old, though the striped uniform hanging loose on her skeletal frame makes her look 60. Her hands are raw from factory work, her feet wrapped in rags because her shoes disintegrated 2 months ago. Around her, 15,000 other women stand in perfect rows, waiting for the SS guards to finish their count, waiting for permission to exist for another day. But in Ravensbrück, the Nazis do not call her by name. She is not Marta Liebman anymore. She is not mother, or wife, or friend. She is 23,741, a number tattooed on her forearm, a number sewn on her uniform, a number shouted by guards, a number on forms that will one day document whether she lived or died. The SS designed the system this way deliberately. Strip away the name, strip away the humanity. Make them numbers, make them things, make them easier to destroy. The count finishes. The guards dismiss them to their work assignments. Some to the munitions factory, some to the sewing workshops where they make SS uniforms, some to the quarantine block where medical experiments happen behind locked doors. Marta shuffles toward the textile workshop with her block mates, moving slowly because moving fast draws attention, and attention in Ravensbrück usually means violence. But as she walks, her left hand moves almost unconsciously to her right sleeve, feeling for the small, hard lumps sewn into the seam. It's there. It's always there. A piece of cloth no bigger than her thumbnail, folded into a tiny square and hidden in the only place the guards never thoroughly check, inside the thick seam were the sleeve attachés to the uniform. On that scrap of cloth, written in ink she made from ash and water, are 4 letters. ANNA. Anna, her daughter, age 7, separated from Marta during the deportation from Berlin 6 months ago. Anna, who had blonde curls and a gap-toothed smile. Anna, who loved to draw pictures of flowers even in winter. Anna, who cried, "Mama," as the SS dragged them to different trucks, whose small hand reached toward Marta until the crowd and the chaos swallowed her. Marta doesn't know if Anna is alive. She doesn't know if her daughter is in another camp, in a ghetto, in hiding with Gentile friends, or already murdered in one of the killing centers she's heard whispered about. What she does know, what she clings to with the desperation of someone who has lost everything else, is that as long as she remembers Anna's name, as long as she holds it close, her daughter exists. Not just as a number or a statistic or a victim, but as Anna, a specific person, a beloved child, a soul who mattered. In the workshop, Marta takes her place at a sewing machine, an industrial model designed to repair military uniforms. Around her, 200 women work in silence. The only sounds the whir of machines and the occasional bark of an order from a guard. They're not allowed to speak. They're not allowed to rest except during the 10-minute meal break. They're not allowed to be sick, to be slow, to be human. But as her hands move mechanically, feeding fabric through the machine, her mind is elsewhere. She's remembering Anna's 3rd birthday, the cake made from rationed flour and honey, the way Anna's eyes lit up at the single candle. She's remembering bedtime stories, the weight of her daughter's head on her shoulder, the small voice asking, "Mama, will we always be together?" "Yes, my love," Marta had promised. Always. It was a lie, a mother's well-intentioned lie, because the Nazis had other plans. Beside Marta, another prisoner stumbles, her hands slipping from the fabric. The guard, a young woman barely out of her teens, wearing the gray uniform of an SS auxiliary, is on her immediately, shouting in German, striking the prisoner across the face with a leather strap. The woman doesn't cry out. Crying out makes it worse. She takes the beating silently, blood running from her split lip, and returns to work. This is Ravensbrück. This is every day. This is the machine designed to break them. But in the seam of her sleeve, Marta carries resistance. Not resistance with weapons or sabotage. She tried that once, slowing her work pace, and nearly died from the punishment. This is quieter resistance. The resistance of memory. The resistance of refusing to let her daughter become a number, a statistic, a forgotten victim of genocide. As long as Marta lives, Anna's name lives. And as long as Anna's name lives, the Nazis haven't won. Not completely. Not yet. Chapter 2. The Cloth and the Crime. September 8th, 1943. 6 months later. Ravensbrück Textile Workshop. Marta has survived summer. The worst season in Ravensbrück, when dysentery and typhus sweep through the barracks like wildfire, when the crematorium runs day and night, when the smell of burning flesh becomes so constant that prisoners stop noticing it. She has lost 12 kilograms. Her gums bleed. Her hair has fallen out in patches. But she is still alive, still standing at her sewing machine, still touching the scrap of cloth in her sleeve every morning to remember that once, in another lifetime, she was someone's mother. The work today is especially demanding, repairing winter coats for Wehrmacht soldiers being sent to the Eastern Front. The workshop overseer, an SS officerin named Dorothea Binz, walks between the rows of machines with a riding crop in her hand. Binz is 23 years old and has a reputation for particular cruelty. She once beat a prisoner to death for dropping a spool of thread. The women work faster when she's on duty, knowing that any mistake, any slowness, any perceived defiance can result in a beating, solitary confinement, or transfer to the punishment block where few return. Marta's hands move mechanically, but her mind drifts, a dangerous habit. She's thinking about the scrap of cloth again, about how she got it, about what it cost. It was 3 months ago. A new transport had arrived. Polish political prisoners, French resistance fighters, a scattering of Jehovah's Witnesses who refused to renounce their faith. Among them was a woman named Zofia, a schoolteacher from Warsaw. During the brief period when new arrivals were processed, before they were fully absorbed into the camp's brutal routine, Zofia had somehow retained a small pencil stub. Contraband, technically, something that could mean severe punishment if discovered. In Ravensbrück, everything is contraband. Paper, pens, books, letters, photographs, anything that connects prisoners to their past lives, to their identities, to their humanity. The SS understand that controlling information is controlling power. A prisoner who can write is a prisoner who can document. A prisoner who can document is a prisoner who can bear witness. And the SS do not want witnesses. But Zofia had the pencil. And one evening, during the brief twilight hour when prisoners returned from work assignments, but before the barracks were locked for the night, she found Marta sitting alone on her bunk, staring at nothing. "You have a child," Zofia had said quietly in German. It wasn't a question. In Ravensbrück, the mothers were easy to identify. They had a particular kind of emptiness in their eyes, a grief that went deeper than hunger or pain or fear. What was her name? Marta had looked up, suspicious. In the camp, trust was dangerous. Informants existed, prisoners who traded information to the SS in exchange for extra food, lighter work assignments, survival. But something in Zofia's face, a shared sorrow, perhaps, or simply the recklessness of someone new who hadn't yet learned to be afraid, made Marta answer. "Anna," she whispered. "Her name is Anna." Zofia had nodded, then reached into her sleeve and produced the pencil stub, no longer than a finger, worn down to almost nothing. "I have no paper," she said, "but I have this. Do you have cloth? Anything?" Marta had torn a piece from the hem of her undershirt, a tiny square, invisible once removed. It took them 20 minutes of careful work, Zofia holding the cloth steady while Marta used ash mixed with water to write the letters. NNA, for letters, a daughter's name, an act of defiance, so small it would fit on a thumbnail, so profound it was worth risking death. Because if the SS found it during an inspection, both women would be punished. Possession of writing materials was a serious offense. Creating any kind of documentation, even just a name, was considered resistance. And resistance in Ravensbrück meant torture, execution, or medical experimentation. But Marta had taken the risk. She had sewn the scrap into her sleeve seam that very night, working by feel in the darkness, her fingers trembling not from cold, but from the terrible importance of what she was doing. Preserving her daughter's name. Refusing to let Anna become just another number in the Nazi death machine. Zofia disappeared 3 weeks later, selected for transport to another camp or perhaps to one of the extermination centers. Marta never learned what happened to her, but the gift remained. The name remained. Now, 6 months later, that scrap of cloth is Marta's most precious possession. More valuable than food, more valuable than warmth, more valuable than life itself, because it represents something the Nazis cannot take. The bond between mother and child, the love that transcends barbed wire and crematoriums, and the systematic destruction of everything human. Prisoner 23,741. Marta's head snaps up. Dorothea Binz stands directly in front of her machine, the writing crop tapping against her palm. Behind Binz, 2 other guards, male SS officers with faces like stone. Yes, Aufseherin, Marta responds automatically, her eyes fixed on the floor. Never look them in the eye. Never show emotion. Never give them an excuse. You will come with us. Random inspection of clothing and possessions. Now, Marta's heart stops. Random inspections happen periodically. The SS searching for contraband, for hidden food, for anything that violates camp regulations. They strip prisoners naked, examine every seam, every hem, every fold of fabric. They find hidden bread, scraps of paper, stolen spoons, and they punish mercilessly. In the seam of her right sleeve, for letters spell the name of a child who may already be dead. If they find it, Marta will die. Not quickly, not cleanly, but she will die. And worse, far worse, Anna's name will disappear. The last piece of her daughter's existence will be destroyed, burned, erased as if she never existed at all. Marta stands. Her legs threaten to give out, but she locks her knees, forces herself upright. Around her, the other prisoners keep working, eyes down, pretending not to notice. In Ravensbrück, you learn quickly. Looking at someone being taken away is dangerous. Sympathy is dangerous. Solidarity is dangerous. Survival means becoming blind and deaf to everything except your own small sphere of existence. As she walks toward the door, flanked by guards, Marta's right hand brushes against her sleeve one last time. She can feel the small, hard lump, the name, the memory, the only thing she has left worth dying for. And she makes a decision. If they search her, if they find it, if this is the end, she will not let them take Anna's name. She will swallow the cloth first. She will destroy it herself before she lets them erase the last trace of her daughter. Because some things, some loves, are worth protecting even at the cost of everything. Chapter 3. The Choice in the Cold. September 8th, 1943. Afternoon. Inspection Building, Ravensbrück. The inspection room is deliberately cold. Another method of control, of breaking down resistance. Concrete floor. Concrete walls. A single bare bulb hanging from the ceiling. A wooden table where guards spread out confiscated items like trophies. Marta stands with 5 other prisoners selected for random inspection, all of them silent, all of them terrified. Dorothea Binz walks slowly in front of them, her boots clicking on the concrete. She's enjoying this. Marta can see it in her eyes, the small smile playing at the corner of her mouth. For Binz, these inspections are entertainment. The fear is the point. The power is the reward. Strip, Binz commands. Everything. Clothing in a pile at your feet. Now, the prisoners obey. There is no modesty left in Ravensbrück. Privacy is a luxury from another lifetime. They remove their striped uniforms, their undergarments, their makeshift shoes. Within seconds, 6 emaciated women stand naked in the cold room, arms at their sides, eyes fixed on the floor. Marta's uniform lies at her feet. The right sleeve faces upward. She can see the seam where she sewed the cloth. Invisible to anyone who doesn't know it's there, but to her eyes, it might as well be glowing. For letters. One name. Her daughter's entire existence reduced to a scrap no bigger than a coin. 2 guards begin the inspection. They work methodically, starting with the prisoner on the far left. They examine her clothing, shaking out each piece, running their fingers along every seam, checking pockets that haven't held anything in months. They find nothing. The prisoner is allowed to dress and stand aside. The second prisoner. The third. Each inspection takes perhaps 5 minutes. Thorough, invasive, designed to humiliate as much as to discover contraband. The guards find a piece of thread hidden in one prisoner's hem. Meaningless, really, but it gives them an excuse. Binns strikes the woman across the face with her crop, hard enough to draw blood. Theft of state property, she announces, as if a single thread is worth killing over. The prisoner takes the blow silently, dresses, stands aside with a new bruise blooming on her cheek. Marta is fourth in line. As the guards approach, her mind races through possibilities. If she reaches for her uniform now, they'll suspect something. If she tries to grab the cloth, they'll see. If she swallows it here, in front of them, they'll force her to vomit it up. There is no way to protect it, no way to save it. The name she's carried for 6 months, the last piece of her daughter, is about to be discovered and destroyed. The guard picks up her uniform, shakes it out, begins checking the hem. Marta's breathing stops. Her vision narrows. She can see nothing but those hands moving toward the right sleeve, fingers probing, searching, and then a miracle, or perhaps just luck, or perhaps the gods, if they exist, deciding that one small act of love deserves protection. The door to the inspection room bursts open. An SS officer enters, breathing hard, his uniform disheveled. Officer Hiram Binns, you're needed immediately at Block 10. A prisoner has collapsed. Dr. Oberhuser is demanding supervision for an emergency procedure. Binns's face twists with irritation. Dr. Herta Oberhuser runs the medical experimentation block, a place of horrors where prisoners are subjected to surgeries without anesthesia, deliberate infections, bone and muscle removals to study regeneration. The doctors there have priority, even over routine inspections. Fine, Binns snaps. She turns to the guards. Finish the inspections. Standard protocol. Report any findings to me tonight. She strides toward the door, then pauses, looks back at the naked prisoners with contempt. Get dressed and return to your work assignments. You're wasting the Reich's time. She leaves. The atmosphere in the room shifts immediately. Without Binns's sadistic presence, the guards become merely efficient rather than cruel. They're still dangerous, still capable of violence, but they're also tired, bored, eager to finish their shift. The guard holding Marta's uniform runs his fingers along the left sleeve, the wrong sleeve. Checks the hem quickly. Finds nothing. Clear, he mutters, tossing the uniform back to her. Get dressed. Back to work. Marta's hands shake as she pulls on her uniform. She can barely button it, her fingers refusing to cooperate. Adrenaline and relief making her clumsy. The scrap of cloth is still there, still hidden, still safe. Anna's name survived. The 6 prisoners are marched back to their work assignments. As they walk through the camp, Marta realizes her entire body is trembling, not just from cold, but from the nearness of disaster, from the razor's edge between survival and death. If Binns had stayed, if the guard had checked the right sleeve instead of the left, if the inspection had been more thorough, she would be dead now, or dying, or wishing she was dead. But she's not. She's alive, and Anna's name is alive with her. That night, lying on her wooden bunk in the crowded barracks, listening to the sounds of 1,500 women trying to sleep despite hunger and cold and fear, Marta touches the cloth in her sleeve. She thinks about the day's close call, about how easily everything could have ended. And she makes a promise, not to God, because she's not sure she believes in God anymore, but to Anna, wherever she is. I will survive this. I will carry your name through whatever comes. And if I live to see liberation, I will find you. Or if you're gone, I will make sure the world knows you existed, that you were loved, that you were Anna, not a number, not a statistic, but a child with blonde curls and a gap-toothed smile who deserved to live. The promise costs nothing. It changes nothing. The Nazis still control Ravensbrück. The war still rages. Anna is still lost. But the promise matters. Because in a place designed to strip away every shred of humanity, every connection, every reason to keep living. A mother's love becomes an act of resistance more powerful than any weapon. The Nazis can take her name. They can take her freedom. They can take her health, her dignity, her life. But they cannot take this, the memory of a child, preserved in 4 letters on a scrap of cloth, carried through hell by a mother who refuses to forget. Chapter 4. The Long Winter. January 15th, 1945. Ravensbrück concentration camp. 18 months later. The war is ending. Everyone in Ravensbrück knows it, though no one dares speak it aloud. The signs are everywhere. Fewer SS guards, less food even than before, the constant sound of Soviet artillery in the east growing closer each day. The crematorium runs constantly now, the Nazis desperately trying to erase evidence of their crimes before the liberators arrive. Every day, hundreds of prisoners are selected for transport, a euphemism everyone understands. They're not being transported. They're being murdered. Marta has survived 22 months in Ravensbrück. She weighs 38 kilograms, less than half what she weighed when she arrived. Her teeth are loose from scurvy. Her legs are swollen with edema. She has dysentery, tuberculosis, and wounds that won't heal. By every medical measure, she should already be dead. But she's not dead, because every morning she touches the cloth in her sleeve. Because every night she whispers Anna's name into the darkness. Because survival has become not about her own life, but about keeping her daughter's memory alive for one more day. The textile workshop closed 3 months ago, the SS no longer maintaining the pretense of productive labor. Now Marta's work assignment is clearing rubble from buildings damaged by Allied bombing raids. It's brutal work for someone in her condition, but it's also, paradoxically, safer than many alternatives. The guards supervising outdoor work details are often less vigilant than those inside the camp. And being outside the barbed wire, even for a few hours, even while hauling stones, offers something precious, a glimpse of the world beyond the camp, a reminder that other places exist where mothers and daughters live normal lives. Today's work site is in the town of Fürstenberg, 2 kilometers from the camp. As Marta and 30 other prisoners are marched through the streets under guard, German civilians go about their business, shopping, talking, pretending not to see the skeletal women in striped uniforms shuffling past. This is one of the obscenities of Ravensbrück. It exists not in some remote wilderness, but adjacent to an ordinary German town. The people here know. They've always known. The smoke from the crematorium is visible from their windows. At the work site, a bombed-out administrative building, the prisoners form a chain, passing rubble from hand to hand, clearing debris under the supervision of 2 elderly Wehrmacht soldiers who seem more weary than cruel. The work is monotonous, backbreaking. Marta's hands bleed through the rags wrapped around them. Her lungs burn with each breath of cold air. But she keeps moving, because stopping means being noticed, and being noticed means punishment. At midday, they're given a break, 10 minutes to rest, to drink the thin soup that barely qualifies as food. Marta sits on a pile of bricks, her body screaming for rest, and closes her eyes for just a moment. Mama, the voice is small, tentative, coming from somewhere to her left. Marta's eyes snap open. For one impossible, heart-stopping second, she thinks, hopes, prays that it's Anna, that somehow her daughter has found her, that this nightmare is ending. But it's not Anna. It's another child, a German girl, perhaps 9 years old, with dark hair and frightened eyes. She stands at the edge of the work site, half hidden behind a broken wall, staring at the prisoners with the morbid curiosity of someone who has been told to stay away, but cannot help looking. She's holding something, a piece of bread, crusty and fresh, the kind of food Marta hasn't seen in nearly 2 years. The girl takes a hesitant step forward. Are you really people?" she asks in German. The question is innocent, horrifying in its innocence. This is what Nazi propaganda has done, convinced even children that prisoners are something less than human. Marta stares at this child, this German child, wearing warm clothes and holding fresh bread, and sees Anna. Not literally, but emotionally. This could be her daughter. Same age, same vulnerability, just born on the other side of an arbitrary line that determines who lives and who dies. Yes, Marta says softly, her voice hoarse from disuse. We are people. The girl extends the bread toward Marta, her hand shaking. One of the Wehrmacht guards notices, starts to move forward to stop this unauthorized interaction. But his partner, an older man with kind, tired eyes, puts a hand on his arm, stopping him. Let her, the older guard says quietly. What does it matter now? Marta takes the bread with trembling hands. It weighs perhaps 200 grams, enough calories to keep her alive for another day, maybe two. Thank you, she whispers. The girl stares at her, and Marta sees something shift in those young eyes, perhaps the first crack in the propaganda, the first moment of recognizing shared humanity. What's your name? The girl asks. For 18 months, Marta has been prisoner 23,741. No one has asked her name. No one has cared that she had a name. But this child, this enemy's child, wants to know. Marta, she says, and the word feels foreign on her tongue, like a language she's forgotten how to speak. My name is Marta Liebman. I'm Greta, the girl says. Then, more quietly, my father says the war is ending. He says the Russians are coming. He says, she trails off, uncertain how to finish. He says you might be freed. Marta finishes for her. Greta nods. Marta looks at this child, this tiny moment of kindness in an ocean of cruelty, and makes a decision. She reaches in her sleeve, feeling for the scrap of cloth. Her fingers find it, clutch it. For one wild moment, she considers giving it to Greta, asking this German girl to remember Anna if Marta doesn't survive the final weeks of the war. But she doesn't, because Anna's name is hers to carry. Her burden, her privilege, her reason for drawing one more breath. If you survive, Marta says instead, choosing her words carefully, remember this. Remember that we were people, that we had names, that we had families. Tell your children that you saw us. Don't let them forget what happened here. Greta nods solemnly, too young to fully understand but old enough to sense the weight of the request. Then her mother calls from somewhere behind the rubble, and the girl runs away, glancing back once before disappearing. Marta holds the bread, feeling its weight, its warmth, its impossible generosity. Around her, other prisoners stare with hollow eyes. Bread is currency here, bread is life, and she's holding enough to trade for precious things. But she doesn't trade it. She eats it slowly, savoring each bite, letting the calories fuel her wasting body. Because she's going to survive this. She has to. Not for herself, but for Anna. For the promise she made. For the name sewn in her sleeve that no one, not the SS, not Hitler, not death itself, has been able to take from her. The war is ending. Liberation is coming. And when it does, Marta Liebman will walk out of Ravensbrück carrying her daughter's name, ready to search for Anna, or if Anna is gone, ready to bear witness to her existence. For letters on a scrap of cloth. A mother's defiance. A love that survived hell. Chapter 5. Liberation and the Name Remembered. April 30th, 1945. Ravensbrück concentration camp. Dawn. The SS are gone. They fled during the night. Guards, administrators, doctors, everyone who wore the uniform and carried the authority of the Reich. They left behind 15,000 prisoners, most of them too sick or weak to walk, and evidence they tried desperately to destroy. Burned documents, demolished gas chambers, mass graves hastily covered with lime. But they couldn't erase everything. They couldn't erase the survivors. Marta stands at the window of her barracks. If stands is even the right word for the way she leans against the wall, her body barely supporting its own weight. Through the dirty glass, she can see the main gate standing open. Just open. No guards. No guns. No barbed wire electrified to kill anyone who touches it. The gate that has been locked for 23 months is simply open, as if freedom is that easy, as if hell has a door you can just walk through when the jailers leave. Around her, women are crying, some from relief, some from disbelief, some because they've forgotten how to feel anything but grief and can't process this sudden absence of threat. A few prisoners venture outside, tentative, expecting at any moment for the machine guns to open fire. But there are no machine guns. There's only silence, broken occasionally by the distant rumble of artillery. The Red Army is close. Perhaps hours away. Perhaps less. Marta doesn't go outside yet. She has something to do first. Something she's been waiting 23 months to do. She sits on her bunk, the same wooden plank she's slept on since arriving, shared with 4 other women, all of them gone now to disease or execution or the death marches the SS organized in the final weeks. With trembling hands, she reaches for her right sleeve. The fabric is threadbare now, worn thin by 2 years of labor and washing and wear. But the seam is still intact. Slowly, carefully, using her fingernails because she has no tools, Marta picks at the stitches. It takes 10 minutes. Her fingers are stiff with cold and malnutrition, and the thread she used to sew the cloth in place has become embedded in the fabric over time. But finally, she feels it give. The seam opens, and there, preserved in the fold, is the scrap of cloth. For letters, written in ash and water, faded but still legible, ANNA. Marta holds it in her palm. This tiny piece of fabric that has survived inspections, searches, the daily grind of camp life, the constant threat of discovery. She thinks about all the times she touched it for comfort, all the nights she whispered her daughter's name into the darkness, all the moments when this small act of defiance was the only thing keeping her human. I kept my promise, she whispers to the empty room, to the ghost of her daughter, to whatever gods might be listening. I carried your name. I never forgot. I never let them take you from me. Outside, a new sound cuts through the morning air, not artillery, but engines. Trucks. Many trucks. The Red Army has arrived. May 2nd, 1945. 2 days later. Makeshift hospital, Ravensbrück. The Soviet doctors and nurses work with grim determination, trying to save lives that are already lost. Of the 15,000 prisoners they found, nearly 3,000 will die in the first week after liberation. Their bodies simply too damaged to survive, even with food and medicine and care. Marta lies on a cot in what used to be an SS administration building, now converted into an emergency medical ward. She has pneumonia, advanced tuberculosis, and organ failure from prolonged starvation. The doctor, a young Soviet military physician, has told her gently that her chances of survival are poor. But Marta is not ready to die. Not yet. Not until she knows. A Red Cross volunteer, a middle-aged Swedish woman named Astrid, sits beside her cot with a notebook and pencil. The Red Cross is compiling lists. Lists of survivors, lists of the dead, lists of the missing. Trying to reconnect fractured families, to account for the millions who disappeared into Hitler's camps. Your name? Astrid asks in German, her voice gentle. Marta Liebman, Marta rasps. Speaking is difficult. Her lungs are full of fluid. Prisoner 23,741. But my name is Marta Liebman. Are you searching for family? Marta's hand tightens around the scrap of cloth she's kept clutched in her palm since liberation. My daughter, Anna Liebman, 7 years old when we were separated. Blonde hair, blue eyes. We were taken from Berlin in September 1942. They put us on different trucks. I don't know where they took her. Astrid writes carefully, her face professionally neutral, but Marta can see the pity in her eyes. They both know the statistics. They both know what happened to children in the Nazi system. The useless mouths who couldn't work, who were sent to extermination centers, who were victims of medical experiments, who simply starved to death in overcrowded ghettos. We'll add her to the missing persons registry, Astrid says. Organizations across Europe are collecting information, trying to reunite families. If Anna survived, if she's in another camp, or in hiding, or with foster families, we'll find her. If. That word carries the weight of the world. Marta opens her palm, showing Astrid the scrap of cloth. I carried this through the entire war, she says, her voice breaking. Her name. I sewed it into my uniform, so they couldn't take it from me. Astrid takes the cloth gently, examines it, then carefully folds it and places it back in Marta's hand. You did an extraordinary thing, she says, her professional composure cracking slightly. In a place designed to erase identity, You preserved your daughter's name. That took courage. That took love stronger than anything they could do to you. She pauses, then asks the question she must ask, though both of them know the likely answer. If we find that Anna, if the worst happened, what do you want us to do with this information? Marta closes her eyes. She's thought about this possibility, has had to think about it, for 23 months. Then record it, she says. Record that she existed, that she had a mother who loved her, that she wasn't just a number in their killing machine, but a child named Anna who loved to draw flowers and had a gap-toothed smile. Tell the world her name. Don't let her be forgotten. Astrid writes it all down, every detail, every memory, every word. And in that moment, Anna Liebman, whether alive or dead, becomes part of the historical record. Not victim #X or statistic #Y, but Anna, a specific person, a beloved daughter, a soul who mattered. 3 weeks later, Marta Liebman dies in the hospital at Ravensbrück. Her body, ravaged by 2 years of systematic brutality, simply cannot recover. But she dies knowing that she kept her promise. She carried her daughter's name through hell and back. She refused to let the Nazis erase Anna's existence. The scrap of cloth for letters written in ash is preserved with her personal effects, eventually donated to the Ravensbrück Memorial Museum, where it remains on display today. A testament to maternal love, an act of defiance against genocide, a reminder that behind every number, every statistic, every victim of the Holocaust, there was a name, there was a person, there was someone who loved them enough to die holding onto their memory. And Anna? The records show that Anna Liebman, age 7, was transported to Auschwitz-Birkenau in October 1942. She did not survive, but she is not forgotten. Her mother made sure of that.